My name is Dr. Joseph Munyua. Today we are focusing on a concept paper. To begin with, let us reflect on the following question. What is a concept paper? It is worthy to mention that almost all researches require a concept paper. In essence, apart from enabling the intended readers to see the whatness, the whyness, and the howness of a particular study, a concept paper helps the researcher to spot any mistakes in his or her study which can later become detrimental to the intended work. In practice, a concept paper enables the researcher to, among other things, be clear at the very beginning and therein avoid carrying out the entire study in vain. Note that in research, preparation generates the success of one's undertaking. Therefore, a thorough preparation is imperative. In a nutshell, a concept paper is a concise summary which seeks to primarily explain three main things to the targeted readers, namely the whatness, the whyness, and the howness of one's intended study. In view of that, a concept paper is aimed at giving the intended leadership an informed idea of the researcher's area of research interest so as to avail the necessary assistance for him or her towards developing a full research proposal and allocate the appropriate supervisor or supervisors who can give the required assistance. Hence, in their concept papers, the researchers should be as specific as possible. Concept papers vary in format and particulars depending on the institution of higher learning. However, in a word, a concept paper is a concise document that contains accurate and relevant information and persuasive arguments for the aforesaid purposes. In this lecture, we shall seek to break down the aforesaid information regarding a concept paper in order to make an insightful explanation of the same intended learning outcomes. After a successful completion of this lecture, the listeners of this work should be able to explain the meaning of a concept paper and demonstrate the ability to write the said paper. Writing a concept paper. Generally, the mode of writing a concept paper is tripartite. In that vein, the three defining features of a concept paper are as follows. Number one, the whatness of the study. Number two, the whyness of the study. Number three, the howness of the study. After answering the involved three questions, namely the what, the why, and the how questions, the researcher writes down a select bibliography, proofreads the work, and submits the finished concept paper to the targeted readers for consideration and verdict. In this context, the following discussion seeks to explain the aforesaid three defining features of a concept paper, that is the whatness, the whyness, and the howness of the study. Number one, the whatness of the intended study. In this case, the researcher should write down a concise title or topic of the intended study. But stating the said title is not good enough. Accordingly, the researcher should also give a crystal clear description of the research title. He or she should briefly make the subject matter of the study plain to the intended readership. Additionally, this descriptive task should embrace a summary of what is already known about the preferred research topic. At this point, it is important to be aware of the fact that the aforesaid summary of what is already known about the research topic reveals what is not known in that very topic. Therefore, at this point, the realized gap in the related existing literature enables the researcher to write at least a one-sentence statement of the research questions that the study will seek to answer. Number 2, the whyness of the intended study. In this case, the researcher should clearly explain the importance of his or her study. To that end, after the discovery of the flaws and holes in the related previous studies and other scholarly works, the researcher should inform his or her targeted readership about the gap in knowledge that his or her study will seek to fill. Herein, the researcher should tell the said readership the reasons why it is important to answer the already constructed research questions. It is in this context that the researcher should show how the intended study will produce new knowledge in the preferred area of study. All in all, showing the whyness of the intended study involves giving the reasons why the study under consideration should be undertaken. It is about evidencing that the said study is worth the time, the money, and the effort that will be set apart for the sake of its success. Number 3, the howness of the intended study. At this point, the researcher should explain how the study will be carried out. In that vein, the researcher should mention how he or she plans to answer the mentioned earlier research questions. Along these lines, in his or her research plan, the researcher should concisely explain the following matters: the kinds of the data required, the techniques of the data collection, the methods of the data analysis, how the data will be interpreted, and a demonstration of how the collected, analyzed, and interpreted data will be used to answer the research questions towards testing the research hypothesis, meeting the research objectives, and solving the research problem. Besides, in the same research plan, the researcher should describe any ethical matters that may apply to the intended study. In addition, in the said research plan, the researcher should write down something about the delimitations and limitations of the intended study. Thank you for listening. Bye for now.